Honorable members, Madam Speaker.
Prayers.
Almighty God, who in a prudential goodness as appointers of leaders and parliaments for to start a just government in humanity, we beseech you to look upon with the abundant favor this your servants, whom have been pleased called to perform such important trust in this land. Let your blessings descend upon the assembled and grant them as in your presence, fit and consider matters of common and deliberation. We so just and fully man to promote your honor and glory and to advance the good of those whose interests you have committed to your church. Amen.
Amen. Item number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I want to welcome you to today's sitting. In my communication yesterday, I informed the House that we shall have a high mass this afternoon that will be celebrated by Right Reverend Dr. Joseph Echiru Ailach, the Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Soroti. So he will be with us this afternoon. Members, about 45 days ago, this House referred the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill 2021 to the Committee of Finance, Planning and Economic Development for processing. I am informed by the chairman that they are not ready in line with the Rule 141 subsection 2. I will give the chairman an opportunity on the floor to formally seek for an extension. On the floor. Honorable members, I will allow a slight adjustment in the order paper to have a motion of the leader of opposition on the shrinking civic space in the country come before the bill. Then immediately after the bill, we shall have Honorable Alex Ruhunda pass his motion, bring his motion on the National Road Safety Day. Clerk should take note of that. I want to thank you once more for always being here and for working for the country. Honorable Kefa.
Right, Honorable Speaker, thanks you very much for the opportunity. I rise under Rule 1412, and it's regarding what you've just communicated about, processing of the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill 2021. Madam Speaker, we've made significant progress on that bill. However, there are some one or two sticker clauses on which we thought we'll have agreement with the ministry before we finalize our report. And this is because some of the issues have bearing on other agreements, joint operating agreements in oil and gas. Now, because we've not been able to agree on them, the Ministry of Finance, the sponsors of the bill, have requested that we hold the processing of the bill and that they are going to consult with their stakeholders and to get back to us. We try to inquire as to how long that consultation process will take. Unfortunately, they are not definite. And they said some of the issues are beyond their controls. Reasonably, Madam Speaker, in the circumstance, I'm requesting that the House allows us 1 month, but it may be anything, maybe 1 week or 2 weeks. Hopefully it will be much sooner and it will not require the month. But for purposes of the House and time allowed to us, I request that we allowed 1 month. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Chair, yes, government.
Right Honorable Speaker, we need this bill passed as much as possible. And on our side as government, we are going to coordinate this weekend. We ensure that we get a position so that this bill, if the committee allows, is presented here on Tuesday for second reading. We wouldn't want much more than that because we have commitments which we must meet as a committee.
Members, by the time you bring, by the time you bring a bill, you should be ready for it. And you should be ready to cooperate with the committee. I am giving you up to 14th to bring the bill in the House. 14th is Tuesday.
Much obliged, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. And I'm still reminding the chairpersons who have motions to bring their motions. They were given either 10 days, 15 days, and I don't know why they are not bringing. And because of that, we may be forced to take an action because we don't want people who are not working. Honorable Leader of Opposition. Next item.
Item number 3, the East African crude oil.
No, we amended that we have the Leader of Opposition present first.
Procedure.
Yes, Faith.
Right Honorable Speaker, on the 1st of December, this
Procedure
month,
on what?
yes, on the 1st of December this month,
Yes.
the Vice President made a statement on the national campaign against defilement, early marriages, and failed parenthood. And Right Honorable Speaker, your office directed that members should embrace this campaign and go and carry out that campaign, and they should register with the Office of the Chief Whip so that this campaign goes on. And to demonstrate its seriousness, it was to be probably before the schools open on 10th of January. And Right Honorable Speaker, I went to the Office of the Chief Whip, and it doesn't seem that nothing is going on. So I'm just wondering if we are proceeding moving right under that directive over that matter. Thank you very much, my Right Honorable Speaker.
Right Honorable Speaker, the member has made judgment on how my office is operating, but I want to assure him it's operating properly. We have very many issues. You came when the whole team was focusing on the ECOP bill. From there, we are going on another matter, and that's one of them. Thank you.
Thank you. You even don't need to register for you to go and do the campaign. We facilitate you every weekend that you go to the constituency to go and talk to your people, to do the oversight role. So if the Office of the Government Chief Whip is busy, please go ahead and do your work. That should not stop you. Thank you. Leader of Opposition.
Statement on the shrinking civic space in the country.
This paper was presented, what we are meant to do is just to have a debate for about 10 minutes on it. It's basically a debate on it. Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the leader of opposition presented this paper some time back, and Right Honorable Speaker, would it be procedure right if he gives us a few highlights before we start the debate to remind the House and bring the House to speed so that we debate informatively? Right Honorable Speaker.
Members, do you remember the paper that was presented?
Right, Honorable Speaker, whereas I don't have a problem with my colleague doing that, but it's like an indictment on the House. One is, yes, it's as if we want to read from here. The purpose of statements being uploaded for us, before coming to the House, we should prepare. And Honorable Sechkubo, you've been coming here several times when you're ready. So I don't know why on this one would need to say, first remind me on the highlights. What if on the highlights, he picks out on a few just areas he's interested in and we have other areas. So Right Honorable Speaker, for me, I would request you give us an opportunity. We just first respond to a few issues which he raised, because the statement has been on our iPad for over 2 weeks.
Please, government, respond to the issues that were raised.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank my colleague, the leader of opposition, for the statement and for raising the concerns he felt touched their people. Number one, Right Honorable Speaker, I would say from the statement, the leader of opposition was economical with the truth. Because in his definition of civil society organizations, I don't know whether deliberately or not, he left out key non-state actors like cooperatives, unions, international NGOs, and others. So I felt we can enrich his submission by including those. Needless to say, Right Honorable Speaker, each civil society, as per his statement, is well governed and regulated by their respective acts and regulations passed by this House. For example, political parties are under the Political Parties and Organizations Act. NGOs are under the NGO Act. It is Right Honorable Speaker, under political parties, what we are saying is that let the leader of opposition highlight which sections of the law government has shrunk the operating space of political parties. Also, Uganda is under multi-party dispensation with the leader of opposition, with the leader of government business and the leader of opposition, with the latter enjoying privileges also of a high-ranking officer, even above our ministers. So we believe we've given them space, they are doing well, and they are highly recognized. And this has been demonstrated in many ways. Right Honorable Speaker, political parties are also funded by government under National Consultative Forum, and government has always participated in for like iPod on equal ground like all other political parties. So though NUP refused to go and be part of it, even recently here in this parliament, we passed a supplementary of 35 billion shillings just the other day to facilitate the operations of political parties. That is enabling you, and even NUP, which is not part of iPod, is going to benefit. That is enabling you to go and do your civil activities using taxpayer money with the support of government. Right Honorable Speaker, Parliament, in reference to POMA, Public Order Management Act, Parliament debated and passed the Public Order Management Act. The leader of opposition states that Section 8 of Public Order Management Act was annulled by the Constitution, but this did not render other sections redundant, not to be enforced by the state. So our focus has not been on Section 8, but we have a full law which we must enforce, minus those ones which were rendered redundant by the courts. Right, Honorable Speaker, it's also on our side, we feel it's unjustified to use an excuse of the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic affected every sector of the economy, and the police had to act in order to avoid the spread of the deadly virus. The police actions affected all political parties. In fact, in many areas, Right Honorable Speaker, like Uganda and Kampala, where the NRM party never had a chance to go and meet the population, and the opposition held big rallies, though it was on fighting and all that, and dominated media space. They performed better. Next time, I promise my colleague, the moment we are given an opportunity to engage with the population in Kampala, we shall win it. Right, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Chaguranyi Sentamu, whom they referred to many times in the statement, exercised his rights and filed a case to challenge presidential pause. Utilizing the same rights, he
there's a
withdrew the
procedure
case
matter.
without.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I've been scanning through our rules of procedure. Under normal procedure, this statement by the leader of opposition was supposed to be debated. And you had actually guided. And when the member, the government chief whip, arose, I thought he had come to debate. But here he is responding. This is not a dialogue between the government, the leader of government, with the opposition leader. You don't respond after debate. Madam Speaker, we're proceeding well on this one. By the way, is merely reading, which is in absolute contravention of the rules.
Can Government Chief Whip, can you wind up?
Right, Honorable Speaker, there were a lot of issues which were raised, pre-election activities. Those pre-election activities, Right, Honorable Speaker, formed part of the presidential petition, election petition, which the Honorable Chaguranyi filed in court, but voluntarily withdrew after knowing that his evidence could not stand the test of time.
We are actually not
So-
going to discuss about Honorable
So-
Chagulanyi in this house because he's not here.
No, Right, Honorable Speaker, I'm responding what was in the statement. That's what was in the statement. Right, Honorable Speaker, there are 2,235 fully registered NGOs in Uganda. Any NGO that claims state interference should seek redress in the course of law. Nevertheless, NGOs must comply with the NGO Act and stipulated policies. There is also an ongoing dialogue between the government and the DGF, and progress is being made to ensure coordination of government policy and DGF activities. The media as a fourth estate has a code of conduct that must be respected by all actors. Journalists in their course of duty have encountered occupational hazards. In situations where officers have erred, Right, Honorable Speaker, government has compensated victims and prosecuted errant officers. Even yesterday, you saw errant officers, one being sentenced to imprisonment for life, another one 35 years in prison for going against the law of the land. Right, Honorable, as I come to conclusion, the NIM government reinstated cultural institutions that were abolished in 1966. The government has handed over some property to the cultural institution. Second, the cultural leaders are facilitated by the state to carry out their noble cause in their respective communities. And that's why you saw the other day, Right, Honorable Speaker, when you were in chair, here Parliament passed 26 billion for Uganda Kingdom. And that was a very good, very good step in the right direction from the government of NRM. Religious leaders,
Lord, I've never known you for being that.
religious leaders, Right, Honorable Speaker, as citizens of Uganda, are free to join politics, but must be cognizant of the consequences. Government always consults religious institutions on transfers of teachers and the teachers of religious funded schools that are now government aided. Uganda is a religious country, and our motto alludes to that. Government and opposition leaders on various occasions have supported religious institutions. Calling such a noble cause as tokenism is absurd. Finally, concerning the Uganda Communications Tribunal, I wish to inform the Honorable Leader of Opposition and the House that the Ministry of ICT is in the process of establishing the tribunal that includes gazetting the regulations and tabling them here in Parliament. I just felt we need to make those clarifications which would guide the debate. I thank you.
Honorable Minister, you will speak last. Honorable Silwani, but when we look at issues of shrinking space is subjective. It depends on the meaning and interpretations depends on the context that it has been brought. So you should debate along that line. Yes, Solomon?
Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you, and I thank the Leader of Opposition for the statement that he issued to this House. Right Honorable Speaker, I first want to be on record. Before I became a member of this Parliament, I worked with several civil society organizations that include Plan International, that include Action Aid International, and several other civil society organizations and community-based organizations. Right Honorable Speaker, Uganda is the only country, one of the best, that gives space to any community-based organization, civil society organization to operate freely. And I remember when we were working in Action Aid, Right Honorable Speaker, we started the Black Monday, and that campaign was seen the whole country. The Black Monday, it was a campaign that was holding leaders accountable, and there was no case at a given time when I, who was leading Black Monday, that government came and said, please stop doing this. We did it in Eastern Uganda. We demonstrated. Right Honorable Speaker, at a given time, I even invited the now president of the National Unity Platform. That time was not yet into politics. He came and sang about corruption in Paris. That was Bobby Wine. He came and sang, Honorable Chagulanyi came and sang about corruption, and the whole thing was good, Right Honorable Speaker. I think when we are looking at the space for civic society, for civil society and civic activities, I think we should not look at it in a narrow perspective. We should broaden our minds, look at things holistically and eclectically to enable us understand when you talk about civil society organizations, what are we talking about? Because it is something big. It includes even households. There are organizations that are at the level of households. So I strongly disagree with the fact that the Leader of Opposition brought a report and told this House that the civic space is being shrunk by government. I think civil society organizations should just operate well and within the law that is established in the country, and then we move forward as a country. I beg to submit, Right Honorable Speaker.
The issue is there space? Does the space exist for these people to be able to interact with the government, interact with their own people that for engagement, actually? Is there an obstruction that they cannot engage? How do we interrogate this further? I think Leader of Opposition, yes, there's somebody. We should limit this debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my name is Okello Geoffrey Charles, the Member of Parliament for Noya East. Thank you for giving me this space, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
You see, I've given you space, there's no shrinking.
I'll come to that, Madam Speaker, thank you. Madam Speaker, just like my colleague said, before I came here, I also worked for quite some time with the civil society sector. The motion brought by the Leader of Opposition is talking about, the statement is talking about shrinking space. Madam Speaker, that means in the past, it was better than today. And coming from the leader of opposition, he's talking about what he feels. And I think that feeling is important, and this House should give it due attention. Madam Speaker, when we are talking about civil society space, we are talking about all those other associations that are voluntary, that are formed by any group of people outside there. Madam Speaker, when we are saying civil society space, it includes all those spaces that we members of parliament also create for ourselves, including in parliament here. For example, we have several forums for parliamentarians, and that is a civil society organization. So it is not a narrow thing, and it is not to do with political party per se. In fact, this is non-partisan debate, because nobody is not a member of civil society. At least nobody here I know. We all belong to civil society. The best example I can give here, Madam Chairperson,
Can you summarize?
is the circle, the parliamentary circle. That is a civil society. Can I bring then just 2-3 points and I sit down, Madam Chairperson? That one,
We have a congested order paper.
the law that is currently civil society is operating under is stringent, Madam Chairperson. It infringes on the space, doesn't give free space for civil society to grow. Madam Chairperson, also, government has clamped on civil society organizations, closing at least 54 of them for so many other reasons, which is okay, but they should be given space to defend themselves before closure. Madam Chairperson, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable. And is bringing in an aspect of perception, how you perceive the civil, the space, whether you have the breathing space, you have space to do engagement, that kind of thing. That is also a perception that he's talking about. Honorable Sechi.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the way I perceived the matter for debate today is about the shrinkage where civil society organizations and the general public are having restrictions in the performance of their activities and work. Right Honorable Speaker, speaking from where the Honorable Member has left off, we got concerned about failure by government to set up the NGO tribunal. The NGO tribunal, Right Honorable Speaker and members, as we speak now, remains unconstituted. It is not in place. It therefore forms a basis of a major setback, because they get deregistered, they get shut down, but they have no recourse to the tribunal. As we speak now, government and the Honorable Minister is here, can tell this House, when is government going to set up the NGO tribunal? Because that would listen to the issues. But now government is the prosecutor, is the judge in its own cause. And this leaves the NGO world in a very uncertain future.
Yes.
Last, Honorable Speaker, yes, we have cultural institutions, but these need the moral and material support. I would like to thank government for the restoration of the cultural institutions. Just one. I was taken aback when we read statements attributed to the president to the effect that these cultural institutions have never transformed any country. And I wondered whether the president was aware of a country like Japan that has traditional institution, Spain, even the Great Britain, they have their monarchy. So I think it is a question of bearing with one another. It is a question of understanding one another. And once you go culture, leave it culture. But once you want to govern the cultural institutions politically, I think we end up misunderstanding one another. Otherwise, I thank government for remembering to pay back the rent areas to Uganda that the minister was talking about here. And I think it was the right thing to do, not as a token, not as a reward, but they deserved that. And when government pays, I think that's the right thing to do. And they did well. I thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. It's about coexistence, tolerance, and I mean, that's what is happening. Honorable Minister, you'll speak last. Can I have him speak? Then you speak. Yes, Christine.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. We are aware that there is a space for civil society, and we observe that it is just shrinking. Right Honorable Speaker, we found that organizations that were drawing their funding from IDF were badly affected. In other words, it is very difficult for an organization now to bench into working on democratic aspects or taking democracy as one of their major goals. Yet, we see that there are gaps evident within our country as far as democracy is concerned. Right now, many of the NGOs fear to venture into that. And yet, we are aware that the National Treasury cannot provide enough to close these gaps. Right, Honorable Speaker, many of the civil society organizations are required to register at the headquarters and as well register in the extension districts. It is a serious challenge to many civil society organizations. The requirements are not cognizant of the dwindling donations to these NGOs, and in most cases, they just close, and we find that it is very difficult to talk about the alternative youth employment. Right, Honorable Speaker, it is also very important that we come up with the provision of privileges and some benefits, especially to the religious institutions, such that they do not lose objectivity in, for example, talking about the ongoing challenges within our country. Otherwise, if it is one party that provided a bishop with a car, it becomes very difficult for that bishop to sometimes objectively comment on what is pertaining to this country. And that is the reason why, even if we feel pupils should go back to school, the religious leaders sometimes fear to talk about it in response to what they were given as benefits. So we can come up with methods of providing the cultural leaders, the religious leaders, with goods and services to aid their civic space so that we maintain their objectivity. Thank you.
Christine, I don't want to believe in the thing of the handouts to bishops are making them not to speak. Because it's not just going to a bishop. And remember, like when you talk about the cars that are given to bishops, they are not given to him as a person. It's given to a church. Now, we have a supplementary here that we are supposed to pay a debt that the Church of Uganda got. We are going to pay billions to Church of Uganda. It is not going to a specific person, but it's going to the whole church. So I don't want to believe really about those handouts or whichever. I mean, they're only facilitating these people in their movements, and the paper is good. If there is shrinking space, then you've made government know that there is some shrinking space. We should wake up and see how we can give space to everybody to breathe, to be able to participate. Honorable Locke.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for availing space for members to be able to participate in sharing their experiences on the subject I raised in my statement. Unfortunately, Right Honorable Speaker, the debate has come a bit late, which is why some members were requesting for a recap. And when my good friend, the government chief whip, came to a debate, he got me thinking that in the future, I will put an interpretation section on my statement so that I'm not taken out of context. That said, Right Honorable Speaker, the statement is about us as a people, as a country, and about what we think is good for this country. Partisanship has gotten the better of us in our discharge of duties, to the extent that, Right Honorable Speaker, some honorable members believe that the position of the LOP is a privilege, yet it's a matter of law. And that whatever the LOP does is a question of magnanimity, not law. That when political parties demand that we do actually operationalize the National Consultative Forum, we're not demanding what is legitimate. We declined as NUP to participate in the iPod. Of course, because we know iPod is just a talking platform, does not have any legal space. The Consultative Forum is what is in the Constitution. And that's what we're asking, that should be operationalized, that complaint or political parties are channeled through a constitutional framework, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, all we are inviting government to do is to say we have made the laws. Let all of us subordinate our activities and our actions to the law. If the NRM is moving around the country, consulting with its members on how the last election was conducted, their challenges, why should the DP, NUP, or any other party be dispersed when they're doing the same across the country? I'll give an example, Right Honorable Speaker, as exit. 3 weeks ago, our members in Kasese were doing the same consultation in a home. They were picked by the DPC. They were charged with treason. They're in Chigo. These are the kind of things that get us thinking as to whether all of us are the same under the law. A particular group can freely consult. Others, when they meet, they are conspiring to overthrow government. This is very unfortunate. These are the kind of things that really make us thinking about the future of this country differently. Civil society, the media. It's very good. Dr. Chris Bariomus is here. What happened to constituting the communication? Under the Communication Act, the minister is charged with the duty to constitute a framework, and which is the Communication Tribunal, to hear out complaints. But like we know, Right Honorable Speaker, we have a complainant who is a judge in their own case, and we do not, the provisions of the law are not being implemented. All we see are individuals who are acting on the law to themselves. I have to mention the fact that any legally suspended without hearing. These are more issues, Mr. Speaker, are what we are calling for debate, that the government may have to come out. Because, truth be told, power is gotten, power is lost, power will be lost. And all we invite of this big party to exercise what big people do. If you are that big, then behave like a big person. You cannot be the father in the house saying you are the father while eating food from your children, and yet you claim to be the father. If the NRM is that big, let it compete on the same ground, on the same terms, under the same law. Do not use our military, our police, as an extension of your party. If you have run out of ideas, please cede ground. We shall keep the same country. We're the same country. Right, Honourable Speaker, these and more issues are what is causing affliction in this country, and it's not good for our democracy. They are the reasons why we are raising this, and we're asking restless on the Speaker, the Committee of Parliament of Internal Affairs, to interest itself in the activities of the NGO board, because it is acting out violates the law and is causing jitters in civil society. So we need to interest ourselves in what they're doing. Probably the Minister of Internal Affairs should be asked to appear either before the committee or before the plenary and explain whether the law was expanded to give the NGO board extra powers outside the framework that we enacted as Parliament. Right, Honourable Speaker. I thank you.
Thank you so much. You have something to say, Megadi? Then we have the Minister.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, and I want to thank the government chief whip, and the law. Madam Speaker, I'm fortunate that I've got the opportunity to say something as far as this shrinking civil spaces, civic space is concerned. If I was to take Parliament as the civic space, those who were in the sick Parliament, if there is any member here, there are those who used to debate for 10 minutes, some for 15 minutes. Now, you stand to debate, and the Right Honorable Speaker, with all due respect, and say 2 minutes, 1 minute. The space for debate is actually shrinking day by day. And so that is where we should actually be looking at that. What should be, if it is a speed govern, at what level should it be? If we agree on where we should be, then we know that every side is supposed to take this responsibility. Government takes its responsibility, civil society takes its responsibility, and then at the end of the day, we shall have a peaceful country. And at the end of the day, no one will accuse the speaker for being denied opportunity to debate. But Right Honorable Speaker, I want to assure you that all the members who have not got the opportunity to debate this specific subject are going to say the speaker is
Members, I am happy you can make such a joke. When you talk about shrinking space in Parliament, where you're used to, we had the owners of Parliament who could debate for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and the rest are left. But if we can divide the space among the members of Parliament who are available, remember we have 555 members of Parliament. If we can divide and say we balance the House, if ruling government side is talking, opposition side is also speaking, and the time should be limited to a particular time and equal for everybody. And I want to tell you there is no shrinking space in Parliament. This is a more objective institution, where everybody is free to do what he wants, speak whatever you want. Such people will get up and speak whatever he wants. There is freedom in this Parliament. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. I'm told you don't allow people to speak your information.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, and the honorable members for the discussion. Let me extend my voice to thank the leader of opposition for the statement that he made. I sympathize with him. Sometimes he has to find business for the house, even when what he's raising is not necessarily representing an accurate reflection of what happens in this country. Let me start with Parliament. The space in the Parliament has not shrunk. Before I came to Parliament, Parliament would sit, but the public would even never adequately know what goes on. But now as we speak, televisions are relaying these proceedings, people are tweeting, people are commenting, they know what we are saying. So you cannot at the same time say the space has shrunk. It has not. Maybe the numbers in Parliament have increased, and that requires us to take a little time to give space to each and every person to speak. But progressively, I think Parliament is opening up to the public, and therefore it is not correct to argue that the space in Parliament has shrunk over time. Let me quickly, Madam Speaker, give a few comments. When the Honorable Leader of the Opposition says there is a shrinking operational space, where is his starting point? Are you saying that the space used to be abundant, and when NRM came, it shrunk the space? Or you are saying during the leadership of NRM, at some point, the space was abundant and it has shrunk under NRM? What are you saying? You're not the author, Honorable Sachiko. Our firm stand as the government is that the NRM government, which opened this space, and it continues to open this space day by day. And the beauty of this debate is that the public is watching us, and they can weigh whether what the leader of opposition is raising is true or not, because the public out there know whether the space exists or not. And at no point shall we shrink this space. Our aim and determination is to continue expanding it so that every Ugandan citizen continues to participate in all these issues. Secondly, members of Parliament are highly traveled, and we travel to different countries, and we know what happens elsewhere. Uganda is one of the few countries admired when you go the rest of the world about how liberal we are, how every Ugandan is free to air his or her views, and will just go home and sleep. That one, even the leader of opposition knows it, but because he has to bring a statement, that's fine. That's fine. Probably one cardinal point that we have to make is that Uganda is not a lawless country, because we are debating as if there should be no laws, there should be no regulation, and therefore we should allow anybody to do anything, anytime without regulation. We sit here as members of Parliament and we make laws. So we should also respect the institutions which we charge with the responsibility of implementing, enforcing, and putting these laws in action. No. Let me say comment on the different institutions that the leader of opposition raises. Political parties. We have over 40 registered political parties in Uganda. And the political parties are free to do their activities in accordance with the law. Your own president of NUP has just been Kigezi doing mobilization and moving around, and nobody touched him, and he was free to move anywhere. When you bring an example that the DPC in Kasese arrested some individuals, the good thing you say, they are in the court system. They were not killed or taken. You have said they were remanded. Maybe they are grounds. That's why they are appearing before court. So instead of castigating the police, maybe try to find out why they were arrested. There must be grounds. because political parties do not operate in a vacuum. There is a law which governs political parties. And therefore, much as we expand the space, but we must also be conscious that we must do whatever we do in accordance with the law. And once we breach the provisions of the law, police and other enforcement agencies are there. I am certain that even if the NRM members who breach the law will catch up with them. And therefore, it's not true that the government or the state selectively applies the law on individuals and not the others. Just don't echo, just sit down. You know the rules if you want to give information how you proceed. Just hold on, I will allow you after some time. The non-governmental organizations. This parliament in 2016, Right Honorable Speaker, passed the NGO Act. Provisions which need to be reviewed. We are members of parliament. The leader of opposition knows how amendments can come. They can come from government, but even you as an individual member of parliament can propose amendments and we debate them. But we must give space to the Bureau to implement the law which we passed as parliament. So let's also appreciate separation of powers. If we enact a law and we say there shall be an NGO bureau which will implement and enforce this law, then why do we come back to castigate the bureau once it is doing its work? The Honorable Christine was saying the NGOs supplement the government by putting in money because we don't have enough money. So are you saying that because we are a poor country, therefore, we should allow NGOs to come and do whatever they want and go beyond what they register to do? And therefore, that's when we shall have expanded space. We are saying, no, we have a free door to the NGOs and civil society, but they must act in accordance with the law. When an NGO is registered, its objectives are clearly stated, and you must stick to what you have been registered to do in the country. But if you're saying your government will allow every Dick and Tom to come and do anything, for us as NRM, we think we should have a door for civil society, but they must act according to the law. You will find an NGO registers to do charity work, maybe in health and education. It transforms into a political activist group. So are we saying that we should just say, oh, we are liberal, do anything? No, 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 no. Once we pass laws as parliament, let's give them space to be.
Honorable Chris, have you finished? Have you finished? Can you finish?
No, I think the speaker is saying I have
Can
little
you
time.
finish?
So, yes, but you allow
Honorable
with the leave of the
Minister,
speaker.
please finish.
No, 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 no. You allow with the leave of the speaker and the speaker.
Now let me give a shrinking space now. You first finish.
Okay.
Shrinking space on it, Sechkobo.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. So in NGOs, we have very many non-government organizations, many CBOs, CSOs, and they are operating freely in all parts of the country, but we remind them that they have to act and do their work in accordance and in respect of the law. Let me speak about the media and the journalists, Right Honorable Speaker. Would you really stand here and say, we don't have a free media in Uganda, if you speak with honesty? Would you say that the opposition, for instance, is gagged when it comes to the media space in this country? That's why I said the public is watching us as we debate. I have appeared with the Honorable Puga several times together on talk shows, and each one of us is free to give his or her views. As a minister responsible for information, Madam Speaker, I have been approached by many members of the public who request me to close some talk shows or even remove some panelists from some talk shows because of the acidic and poisonous information that they give. But our view as government that we don't want to gag citizens. If you give information which annoys some sections of the public, it's our view and the duty as government to respond and clarify. That's why we don't disallow people from airing their views. So if you argue that this government does not allow people to speak, you compare with other countries. Here there is freedom of the press and freedom after the press. You can say anything and you go home and sleep without any fear of anybody attacking you because of what you have said. Right, Honorable Speaker, it is this NRM government which restored the traditional and cultural institutions. And there are laws which guide these cultural institutions. There is a difference between the cultural institutions as they were before independence and immediately after independence, and the kind of constitutional framework that we have today. And the cultural institutions are doing their work, but definitely if they infringe on the law, if they breach the provision of the law, they have to be brought to order. You saw the incident in Kasese, the kingdom of Singa Bwagwenzururu, where a cultural leader was now starting to dare government, saying, I remember seeing him on TV saying, if the government wants me come, I will fight it. Let it come here. And then there was that confrontation. So whether you are a cultural leader, you have to conform to the provisions of the law because they are guided by the law of this land. And I would want to encourage and invite members to really.
Honorable Chris, can you conclude?
Yes, I'm being advised to conclude. So, right, Honorable Speaker, I would have loved to give way, but there is no time as guided by the Speaker. And therefore, as I conclude, right, Honorable Speaker, I appreciate the leader of the opposition for bringing the statement, but our view as government is that this space has been expanded under the leadership of NRM, and we shall continue to expand this civic space. Should there be need to amend any provisions of the law, we are here as members of parliament. We can amend any provision of the law, and therefore we disagree with that assertion and perception that the space.
Procedure matter.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. As a matter of procedure, Madam Speaker, the Minister is aware that by virtue of his office by now, they should have constituted the communication tribunals and the NGO tribunals. So that issues that are arising as those of shrinking space, for instance, for media practitioners and the journalists who are targeted, especially those who covered campaign trails of opposition, like Weekly for Mala, who was assaulted, you know all this. So is it as a matter of procedure, right and fitting for the minister to have latitude to take us through all manner of stories when he has failed to comply with the law to constitute these tribunals, Madam Speaker?
Honorable Whip, the Communication Tribunal and the NGO Tribunal are going to be in place. Can you conclude?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Okay. Yes, I know the law requires those tribunals to be established, but I have already spoken publicly on the issue of the UCC tribunal, where I have said, and I can repeat for benefit of the members, that we've been working out regulations to govern and guide the tribunal, which we have now completed, and soon we shall lay them on the table here. And consultations are ongoing between our ministry, the judicial review, the Judicial Service Commission, which also has a responsibility, and we shall be appointing that tribunal. But in the meantime, if you are dissatisfied with the decisions of UCC, there is a ministry which supervises UCC. There is also court. You cannot say that the channels are blocked once you are dissatisfied with the decisions of UCC. And similarly, NGO Bureau, the courts are open. So you still have space where you can take your complaints. And therefore, the fact that the tribunals haven't been established does not in any way limit the space of those who would want to raise their complaints. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable
Speaker,
Minister.
and thank the members for the debate.
Honorable Minister, thank you so much. The issue that is raised by the whip is pertinent on communication tribunal. I remember when we were in Kosase, that was one of our recommendations. To date, it has not been done. And maybe in your able leadership, we need that tribunal in place to help the youth. It's a legal requirement. It's not something that you're acting outside the law. I want to thank you so much. And some of the pertinent issues that have been raised under the Committee of Defense and Internal Affairs, I would really interest the committee to look at those issues that have been raised and see how we harmonize the situation. Thank you. Next item.
The East African Crude Oil Pipeline Special Provisions Bill 2021, Bills Committee stage.
Honorable members. Honorable members, yesterday we considered the first 25 clauses of the bill and stood over clause 4. Today we shall begin from clause 26. The stood over clause will be handled at the end. That is the interpretation clause. So we are starting with clause 26.
Clause 26.
I put a question that clause 26 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 27.
I put a question. Yeah. I am putting a question because there is no change. Such just.
Clause 27.
I put a question that clause 27 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 28.
I put a question that clause 28 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 29.
Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Right Honorable Chair and honorable colleagues. Clause 29 is on insurance and reinsurance of the ECO project. The committee is proposing to amend subclause 1 by inserting the words, "The National Environment Act 2019, immediately after the words Insurance Act number 18 of 2017. The insurance regime applicable to the ECO project shall be in this act. Shall be this act, the Insurance Act number 18 of 2017, the National Environment Act 2019, the Petroleum Refining, Conversion, Transmission, and Midstream Storage Act of 2013, the Petroleum Refining, Conversion, Transmission, and Midstream Storage Regulations 2016, and the Ugandan law. Right Honorable Chair and honorable colleagues, the justification is to aptly provide for application of the National Environment Act of 2019. Madam Chair, I beg to submit the amendment.
Honorable Minister, let her first consent or not.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Chair. This is one of the amendments that I accepted because it was raised by the Shadow Minister for Environment to be clear that we include the National Environment Act. Otherwise, we had included this in the word Ugandan law because the definition of Ugandan law takes care of this provision, but we conceded so that we come clear and harmonize with our colleagues.
And maybe just remind the House, especially some people were not here, because we realized this was most contentious. We set a subcommittee that looked at all the clauses, and this is the outcome of the subcommittee. But I wouldn't mind if Wilfred. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I were not on another committee work in respect to the
Actually, you would
succession
have-
amendment bill,
You'd have chaired this one.
I should have been part of this. Madam Chair, just two observations. One, we are making an act of parliament, but one thing that I've seen that goes through the entire bill is that reference is also made to regulations made under other acts of parliament. And to refer to regulations in an act of parliament, to me, is bad drafting and really misnomer. Because we registrate and the regulations are by delegated authority. Then the other thing I wanted to raise is on sub-clause 2. If you look at this particular provision, clause 29, it refers to provisions under the host government agreement. Unfortunately, that host government agreement is not in our appendix. And how I wish it had been part of the appendix. It may not necessarily all the provisions.
Honorable Wilfred, we have actually you've taken us back to the debate of the bill. We have the host agreement. It was laid on table. If you want, I can give you another copy now. We have it. Honorable, yes?
Really, that the good practice would have been to include those salient features in the host agreement under the appendix, not on the table, because if a legal researcher, for example, making research and looks at this, you will end up having litigation for disclosure of agreements which would not ordinarily have been looked for. So basically that.
Okay, thank you, but you're in agreement. Honorable Katuntu?
Well, I think what my colleague has been articulating, we have conversed it. I want to comfort him that, yes, this bill makes reference to other laws because it is not also an ordinary bill. As you can see the title, it is the East African Crude Oil Pipeline Special Provisions Bill, meaning actually it is touching on many other provisions of other bills, many other provisions of other bills, because it's a special legislation for a project. It's not one of these we are legislating for a lifetime and so on. It's just purely for this project. And in essence, it goes to overriding many other bills in many aspects, but only in relation to this particular bill. So that's why you find those resourcing of other laws and so on.
Thank you, thank you. I put a question that clause 29 be amended as proposed. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay.
Clause 29 as amended.
I put a question that clause 29 as amended do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have
Clause
it.
30.
I put a question that clause 30 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 31.
We are at the committee stage, Honorable Chair. And once, before a question is put, a member raises, it is for the benefit of the bill being debated and for the whole House. Right, Honorable Chair, I stood and I clearly saw I caught your eye. But the question was put on clause 30.
I put a question because there was no amendment to it. Pardon?
I had reason to propose an amendment to the same rate of Chair.
You can recommit it.
Clause 31.
I put a question that clause 31 stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 32.
I put a question that clause 32 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 33.
I put a question that clause 33 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay.
Clause
The ayes
34.
have it. I put a question that clause 34 do stand part of the bill, and those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 35.
I put a question that clause 35 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 36.
I put a question that clause 36.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, we have an amendment on this clause 36, which is on decommissioning fund. Madam Chair, our harmonized position is that we amend clause 36 by inserting a new subclause immediately after subclause 5 as follows. The minister shall submit a report annually to Parliament on the status of the decommissioning fund. Right, Honorable Chair, the justification for this is to enhance parliamentary oversight. I beg to submit the amendment.
Honorable Minister.
Right, Honorable Chair, the issue of parliamentary oversight cannot be underestimated. So I concede that for purposes of enhancing parliamentary oversight, we include this provision. So I concede.
Thank you. I put a question that clause 36 be amended as proposed. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. Ayes have it, yes.
I'm at odds, and I really want to go the wrong way from my speaker's direction and or the chair's direction.
Instead of quarreling, go on. I've not put the final
question.
Raise your issue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm moving that clause 36, 3A be amended from the current position, which provides that the project company shall be responsible for the costs related to the implementation of the decommissioning plan. And A provides from the date falling 5 years after the first oil date, etc. I propose, Madam Chair, that it has to be the first year. First year because the decommissioning is a composite burden to the state. Once you wait for the 5 years, it has its issues. This is the money that has to cater after the crude oil pipeline, its usage is over. To prepare for that, you begin from the revenues as they begin to flow. But to give a leeway of 5 years, it should be in tandem. Once you have the incomes, set aside the small amount at that stage to cater for the decommissioning at a later stage. Otherwise, the decommissioning could be abandoned for failure to have the full funds for the decommissioning. I propose to move is the Madam Chair.
Yes, Council.
Madam Speaker, I want to answer or respond to my colleague's proposal.
You see, first of all, this bill was in a committee. It was in a committee. And I expected members to go and make their amendments in the committee, not on the floor. Because you're not hearing this bill for the first time. It has been in the committee. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I want to clarify that the committee considered this clause and looked at the provisions that was agreed upon in the host government agreement, in which it was clearly stated that the decommissioning fund should we should start to have money in the decommissioning fund by the half-life of the project. And that means we are looking at a project of about 20 years, so the half-life would be after 10 years. But in this particular law, we are providing for starting to put money in the decommissioning fund after 5 years, which is so good. But additionally, Madam Chair, we don't want to put redundant money to redundantly stay in an account, because the project has a lifespan, and the lifespan, according to what is being anticipated, is 25 years. So really, we don't want to begin committing money there when it is not going to be used. So, Madam Chair, I beg that we go as is. Thank you.
Minister.
I just want to allay the fears of Honorable Sechkubo, who thought that probably there will be a likelihood of abandoning the pipeline. The decommissioning itself is one of the proposed amendments so that we understand what decommissioning means. There is also a definition of decommissioning plan. So all that takes care of what Honorable Sechkubo was anticipating, that probably there could have been a likelihood of abandoning the pipeline. We are going to define decommissioning so that we know what it means. We are going to define decommissioning plan. So you relate that to the decommissioning fund. If you do that, you will realize that your fears are taken off.
Kaya, Christine, you're part of this. Members? I want to put a question on the amendment of Honorable Sechkubo. I put a question on the amendment of Honorable Sechkubo on section 36. On section 36, 3A. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary, no. The noes have it. I now put a question to the amendment of the committee. Do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary, nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 36 as amended.
Chair. Clause 36, I put a question that clause 36 as amended stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, to the contrary, nay.
Clause 37.
Madam Chair, on clause 37, which is on completion of decommissioning, our harmonized position is to substitute subclause 2 to read as follows. Subclause 2, the post-decommissioning finalization report shall be reviewed by the authority in consultation with the National Environment Management Authority in accordance with the provisions of the National Environment Act 2019 and the Petroleum Refining, Conversion, Transmission and Midstream Act of 2013 and the Host Government Agreement. The justification, Madam Chair, is that the clause, as it were, excludes the mandate of NEMA, and this could easily disregard the primary purpose of decommissioning, which is associated with several environmental aspects, including restoration. Save for resource reserve, all other aspects of the eco project facility will be environmental in nature. Hence, the role of NEMA is very crucial. Madam Chair, I beg to submit the amendment.
Honorable Minister.
I concede.
So you concede. If you read or if you appreciate the amendment proposed by the committee, it keeps the sentence hanging. If the report is yes reviewed by the authorities, then who approves that report? You've not indicated exactly which now or which authority of those two authorities, NEMA and the authority, will approve this particular report. Remember, it is being submitted by the project company and it must be approved one or the other. So if your amendment is to be allowed, then it must go beyond and say if they have reviewed it both, but mention the authority that will finally approve.
Honorable Chair.
Madam Chair, the authority is clearly defined in the interpretation clause, and the authority is the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. But because that authority is not technically competent, that is why we brought in NEMA as the technical authority that is competent in regard to environmental issues. Madam Chair, if I may read again the entire clause, should read: the post-decommissioning finalization report shall be reviewed by the authority, which means the relevant authority, which is NEMA.
Petroleum. You said under interpretation, the authority is Petroleum Authority.
Okay, let me first read the whole thing. The post-decommissioning finalization report shall be reviewed by the authority in consultation with the National Environment Management Authority in accordance with the provisions of the National Environment Act 2019 and the Petroleum Refining, Conversion, Transmission and Midstream Act 2013 and the host government agreement. What that clause, subclause means is that the authority referred to in the bill is the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. It is the one that reviews the post-decommissioning report in consultation with the NEMA, which is now acting as its technical arm. I beg to submit.
I reconfirm that I concede with.
Finance, you had something to say?
I thought what was lacking was that to complete the statement by saying, and shall be subject to the approval of the authority, full stop. I think that was lacking. And he seems to have deleted it with his amendment.
I agree with the minister because you see, if these other authorities review, there remains that aspect of approval. So if they can review with the NEMA, but then the approval must now vest into a specific authority, which should remain the authority. So your amendment can be captured, but you continue with and shall be subject to the approval of the authority, which approval shall not be unreasonably withheld or delayed. So it is complete.
Honorable Chair.
Right, Honorable Chair, the authority that is understood under the host government agreement is no other but the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. And so, if we introduce NEMA.
Chair, I want to refer you to 3. Now, what we are talking about, the approval, is covered under 3. So there is no need for us to include approval in 2. So it is covered in under 3.
Right, Honorable Chair, you were spot on. We should have read the 2 together because 3 covers it. And I request that we support the amendment as moved by the chair.
Honorable members, I put a question of clause 37 be amended as proposed. Those in favor say aye, to the contrary nay.
Clause 37 as amended.
I put a question that clause 37 as amended stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 38.
Chair. 38. I put a question that clause 38 stand part of the bill.
Yeah.
Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
This 38 on other project activities, Madam Chair, where we see.
Wait. We finished 38. We can come back to it. First go back and look at it again.
Clause 39.
Clause 39. I put a question that clause 39 stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 40.
I put a question that clause 40 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 41.
I put a question that clause 41 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, to the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 42.
I put a question that clause 42, yes? You're on which clause?
42. Chair. Chair, on this clause 42, A, the project company shall have the right to receive and use electrical power generated from Kingfisher, etc. But then it also leaves room for the company to construct and operate any other necessary infrastructure. And yet I thought as a country, fortunately, the host minister is the one in charge of power generation in this country. Wouldn't it do well if we remained with this for Uganda, for this section of the country to be able to supply power for the heating? Because I know since it is a waxy oil to be exported, it needs heating. We make use of our electricity without allowing the company to construct any facility. We leave it to be purchased from our power generated in the country, so that we remove the right to construct and operate any necessary infrastructure. We leave it to power supply to be our input and to be paid for it. So I propose, Madam Chair and members, to delete that section that gives the ECOP the right to construct and operate any necessary infrastructure. To delete that, so that this power, we have excessive power from Karuma, from all these dams, we have it as a country to do the heating and the electricity supply, Madam Chair.
What is included in the host agreement?
Just a short while ago, I was comparing notes with the Attorney General, the Latin Attorney General, and said most of these are in the host agreement. But probably now that he's here, if there is room and it wasn't tied, we can take the benefit rate of
Can we hear from Attorney General?
Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, my senior colleague is being speculative. A thorough look at this clause. There are key words in it. One, it says necessary infrastructure, meaning that the infrastructure must be of necessity. Two, in accordance with the arrangements, meaning that there has to be a negotiated agreement. And this then it goes ahead to say jointly agreed, meaning that you have to negotiate and agree with the regulatory authority. In essence, they are saying that ECOP would have to liaise or to enter an understanding with the regulatory authority in order to construct the necessary infrastructure. There's no problem with this, Right Honourable Speaker.
Honourable Minister.
And then secondly, Madam Chair, in addition to what the Honorable Attorney General has guided on, you see, this clause basically is to avoid any interference in the operations of the project company. We know that there is excessive gas, but to bring in another company to generate electricity out of that excess gas would bring in a lot of interference in the operation of this project. And I just want to give an example to my own honorable colleague, the Honorable Sechiku. Imagine you are on your business, in your bedroom, and someone is also there to do other duties. Would you feel, how comfortable would you feel?
Honorable members, I put a question that Honorable Sechkubo's amendment that in 42A, we delete the words including the right to construct and operate any necessary infrastructure. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary, no. The nays have it. I now put a question that clause 42 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Clause 43.
43, I put a question that clause 43 stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary, nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 44.
I put a question that clause 44 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary, nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 45.
I put a question that clause 45 do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary, nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 46.
Honorable Chair.
Right Honorable Madam Chairperson, our amended or rather harmonized version of clause 46, which is on supremacy of this act, is as follows. This act takes precedence over all existing laws relating to any matter under this act, and where there is a conflict between this act and any other Ugandan law other than the Constitution in relation to any matter under this act shall prevail. The justification, Right Honorable Chairperson, is that this ensures that certainty is given to the investors, that there will be no interference with their work. In addition, this law shall be supreme to other laws on specific matters relating to ECOP. It's worth noting that a similar provision is found in many other laws in Uganda, including the National Environment Act 2019 under Section 180 and the Petroleum Exploration, Development and Production Act of 2013 under Section 186, among other laws. So, Madam Chairperson, I beg to submit the amendment.
Honorable Minister.
Right, Honorable Chair, this is one of those provisions where really we had to harmonize when we interfaced with the committee. And we agreed that there was need to make the people of Uganda settled regarding safeguarding the Constitution and other laws. So we agreed that we become specific as the chairperson has proposed. So I concede and I support the chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, in legislative drafting, there is always the cross-referencing. And the way I'm reading this clause, is it necessary? Because we are creating a super law that is given supremacy, and yet that supremacy can only be retained by the Constitution. Needless to mention, must we have this provision in this bill? I propose that we delete it altogether, because where other changes shall be applied, and even within this law, mutatis mutandis, without necessarily having a provision that you are creating a super provision, a super law, and it is taking precedence over others. When need arises, there shall always be the cross-referencing, Right Honorable Speaker. Yes, the minister is talking about giving certainty to Ugandans. The chairperson is talking about giving comfort to the investor. But at the end of the day, we as the legislators we need to be fair to all the laws made under the Constitution. And therefore, I move that we delete this clause 46 because it is creating a supernormal aspect of the law as if there is something, the sky is falling, it is sacrosanct. The sacrosanctity can only be retained by the Constitution, but not any other law made by this House, Madam.
Honorable Sechi, thank you so much. Unfortunately, that's part of what is in the host agreement. Unfortunately, that is in the host agreement. And can I have the host agreement and I show Sechi? And I think there is a precedent that has been set. In the NEMA Act of 2019, there was a precedent that was set. The petroleum. Kyle, I want to lend you my copy. You have a look at it.
Will you return it?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Chair. Again, I'm sorry that we have to keep on reminding ourselves that we are dealing with a special provisions bill to enable the implementation of the agreements that we signed after protracted negotiations. We found this as a limitation where we did not have any answer. I just want to plead that we bear with that because we want to enter into the real business where Uganda is represented. We are in business with other people. It is.
Are you in agreement with the amendment?
I am in agreement with
Members,
the chair.
I put a question that clause 36 be amended as proposed. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary, nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 46 as amended.
I put a question that clause 46 as amended stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary, nay. The ayes have it.
Clause 4.
Clause 4. That was stood over.
Right, Honorable Chair. Yesterday we stood over this clause, which is the interpretation clause. Now I would like to propose the following amendments. A, amend the definition of the word off-taker by deleting the words "and delivered at the Marine Export Terminal at Shongoliani, Tanga District in Tanzania." The justification, Madam Chair, is to be in line with the object and purpose of the bill and to avoid unnecessary repetition. Madam Chair, I beg to submit the amendment.
I concede.
Can you move all the amendments? All the on the interpretation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for that guidance. The next amendment that I would like to move is to amend the definition of the word oil processing areas by deleting the words located in Uganda, Tanzania, or the territory of any state which has acceded to the intergovernmental agreement. The justification is to be in line with the objects and the purpose of the bill. I beg to submit. Madam Chair, the other amendment that I would like to submit is on metered volume. And we are proposing that metered volume should be defined to mean that volume of petroleum that has been measured by a metering system at the point of entry of the ECOP system. The justification is for clarity because the word has been used in clause 5 and other parts of the bill. Then I'm proposing another interpretation, rather definition, which is on payment in kind. And we are proposing that payment in kind needs to be defined as to mean the use of crude oil as payment for transportation tariff and related services in accordance with the government, in accordance with the agreements for transportation of petroleum and the host government agreement. And the justification for that amendment is for clarity because payment in kind has been used in some of the provisions of the bill. For example, under clause 8 of the bill. Madam Chair, we are also proposing that we define decommissioning to mean the process of safely ceasing operations resulting in a complete or partial removal and or making substantial changes in use of ECOP system or permanently disposing or abandoning a facility or operation in a manner that is not deleterious to human health or the environment. And the justification for that is just for clarity, Madam Chair. And then we would like also to make another definition which is on decommissioning plan. And this should be defined to mean the latest version of the written plan describing proposed actions associated with the decommissioning of the ECOP system across Uganda and Tanzania to be undertaken by the project company in the form prepared by the project company and approved by the relevant state authority and the relevant Tanzanian state authority. The justification for that proposed amendment is that the ECOP is a single integrated project that runs across Uganda and Tanzania. Therefore, the project requires a harmonized decommissioning plan to be approved by both states. And that is in reference to Article 15(1)(d) of the intergovernmental agreement that we are domesticating. The definition is therefore aligned with the agreement in the ratified treaty or the IGA. Madam Speaker, those are all the amendments that I wanted to submit on interpretation clause, and I beg to submit them.
Thank you, Chair. Any member who has an issue on interpretation clause?
Thank you, Right Honorable Chair. Right Honorable Chair, we had initially intended to recommit clause 7, specifically to give meaning, specific meaning to legal and beneficial ownership because of the issues we canvassed yesterday. We tried to agree with the team we were with today morning, throughout the morning and the afternoon. It remained a bit sticky. We seem to be at cost purposes trying to understand the fair appreciation and the intricate meaning and interpretation thereof. The challenge we had in agreeing in finality to it was that I did not establish a clear definition of the same in the host government agreement. And that for me leaves some bit of ambiguity. I need to be satisfied that the amendments we moved on clause 7 provide adequate meaning so that at one stage you shall not be blamed for lax legislation that leaves room for various interpretation, Right Honorable Chair. I've tried even after to come to terms with my colleagues on this. I want to be on record that the definition of legal and beneficial ownership is not a matter over which we have come to an appreciation. We had come up with the technical team had come up with a definition. Eventually, it fell through. I do not know whether in your wisdom, Chair, Right Honorable Chair, you would love to ask the minister to offer more clarity, or the chairperson, for my appreciation of this definition, or probably the chair to put it to the members of this house. After all, it's not anybody's business to get away with the victory, but to get a consensus over matters for which all of us are going to be charged over time. Chair.
Thank you, Lob. Did you want to introduce this in the interpretation clause? And if you want to introduce it in the interpretation clause, then do.
Yes, Right Honorable. Well,
the minister wants to say something.
Right Honorable Chair, yes, the leader of opposition is right. He introduced this matter to us. But when we looked back to what we passed yesterday on clause 7, because the time he introduced it, he was relating to the bill as it was before yesterday's amendment. When we look at yesterday's amendment, where we agreed to insert on clause 7, it was amended by inserting the words arising from the 15% state participating interest in applicable petroleum agreements between the words it and at, so that the clause now read like this: notwithstanding the provisions of any Ugandan law, the Ugandan state participant shall hold legal and beneficial ownership of petroleum allocated to it, arising from the 15% state participating interest in applicable petroleum agreements at the exit point from the upstream project at Kabale, to enable it to exercise its rights and perform its obligations under. We realized that this was taking care of what Lope was raising. And secondly, yesterday we had not considered the interpretation of the word payment in kind, which has been introduced today, and it is ably defined. And therefore, I feel that we have taken care of what the Lope was raising, and that we don't need to, if I can read payment in the, but the chair has just introduced it. I think it is fresh in the member's mind. So I really beg that the Lope understands that and concedes that we go by what we passed yesterday and today's interpretation of payment in kind. It is specifically talking about 15% and nothing beyond that.
Honorable Katonto.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I think we need to go back to clause 6 and read it, clause 7, which the minister has been trying to explain. It says, notwithstanding the provisions of any Ugandan law, the Ugandan state participant shall hold the legal and beneficial ownership of petroleum allocated to it. Then we made the amendment arising out of 15% shareholding or participatory at the exit point from the upstream project at Kavale to enable it. And now I want to emphasize, I want to emphasize this because Madam Speaker, we have the whole morning been grappling with this thing. How do we create a consensus? But we haven't been emphasizing this, which I like now colleagues to know. To enable it to exercise its rights and perform its obligation under. I can repeat, the ownership is to enable it to exercise its rights and perform its obligation under the relevant petroleum agreements, the agreements for the transport of petroleum, the host government agreement, and any other agreement entered into the implementation of the agreement referred to in A to C. Really, this ownership, this beneficial ownership legal is for a purpose, according to the bill. And that purpose is to enable it to exercise its rights and perform its obligation. That we hadn't been emphasizing it. And when you go, Madam Chair, when you go to payment in kind, which certainly is related to clause 7, we define what payment in kind means. And we also restricted it. If you look at because I don't know whether we are anticipating, but the minister has read it, and we had a consensus about that definition. It ties in correctly that this particular beneficial and legal right is restricted. 1, to 15%, 3, to perform their own obligations and rights under these agreements, and nothing else. It does not go ahead and relate to revenue, because the issue is the mischief, the fear we are having is, are we giving the NOC beneficial rights for purposes of benefiting from the revenue? I think that was the fear. Oh, sure.
Since now you've taken up the role, may I get a clarification from you? If this particular...
Which role has he taken over?
He has taken over my role as the alternative attorney general.
Okay.
Yes, so I wanted to get a clarification from my brother, Honorable Abdu Katuntu. If the 15% envisaged under clause 7 is restricted for the purposes of this particular bill, why then do you make reference to relevant petroleum agreements which are outside this bill? Why then don't you restrict the title to the petroleum and the payment in kind to only purposes of this specific bill? Which purpose is it? The provisions for basically transportation of the petroleum in this particular project, the pipeline. Why do you make it appear to even include other agreements that are not envisaged under this bill?
Well, thank you very much, my younger brother. You know, I was the other attorney general for 5 years in this house before you. And certainly I went also to school before you. So I'm not taking up your role, but I'm doing my senior role. Number one, all these other agreements are anchored from the petroleum agreements. They are not agreements on their own. They all arise from the petroleum agreements. That's why when you look at D, it even says any other agreement entered into for the implementation of the agreements referred to. So they are not in isolation. They are not in isolation. If you, and I don't know whether the minister can read again, I don't know, maybe the clerk, the amendment we have made for payment in kind, the definition, because this was demanded by us, I think by the law actually. This thing about payment in kind, we would just wanted to know what payment in kind are we talking of? If we can read the agreement, the definition.
Chairperson, can you read the definition?
Definition, which we arrived at.
In kind?
Because it helps put it in context.
Madam Chair, the definition we are proposing is payment in kind means the use of crude oil as payment for transportation tariff and related services in accordance with the agreements for transportation of petroleum and the host government agreement.
So even this payment in kind is restricted. It is for purposes of transportation. So if you read, just read, you need to read clause 7, clause 8, and the interpretation clause together. And you'll find that the fear, the mischief we are having is already covered by the bill. But Madam Chair, the whole, actually since yesterday, we have been trying to see how we can harmonize and we cure the problem, which all of us could see. If we don't clarify, it could be subject to misinterpretation. So, in my own view, well-considered opinion, I think the amendment in clause 7, the amendment in clause 8 by defining payment in kind in the interpretation cures that problem. However, I would like the minister to be on record that maybe I'm reading the law differently, but she should be on the record to tell us, colleagues, that actually what we are fearing is not true because the law is not intended for that purpose. And I think that would make everybody comfortable, if I understood the leader of opposition correctly.
Honorable Minister, can you make a clarification?
I am holding the bill. I'm not holding the Bible. To really assure you, I'm holding the bill. And I want to begin from rereading what clause 2 means of this bill on application. Where will it be applied? This act applies to the East African crude oil pipeline project. And what is the work of the pipeline is to transport crude oil from the refinery. Because we have a refinery which will be handling 60,000 barrels, and we have the rest going through this route, the pipeline. So, Honorable Katuntu Abdu, Senior Counsel, I'd like to thank you for your further submission. So, Right Honorable Chair, I really plead that we go by what we passed yesterday in making sure that we are talking about the 15% title and the definition of payment in kind, which was missing in this bill, where we agreed that for clarity, let us include this definition so that we don't go beyond the scope. This is what I can say, right, Honorable Chair.
No.
Right Honorable Chair, the beauty about the law and its interpretation is that when you conceive an idea or a concept and seek to offer meaning to it. It's your own meaning, and you share it across for interpretation, which is why I never saw mischief in supplying my considered definition, having failed to find it in any of the agreements and laws so referred to. And I thought that the ambiguity could be a subject of misinterpretation. And I agree with the Honourable Minister that clause 2 clearly speaks to the purpose of the bill. But because, again, the purpose of the bill is for transportation of the crude. When you read the bill, you see, and other services. Those other services, again, lead the ambiguity. Those other services referred to relate to those other agreements, okay? And they're not attachment to this particular bill, and therefore the tendency to leave ambiguity is various. However, that said, I want to be on record that that leaves a void, Right Honorable Chair. And let's formally close this by moving. I want to move, and it's the business of this House to take a decision. And when on these matters that we introduce on clause 7.
Are you introducing on clause 7 or clause 4?
Sorry, clause 4, a part I. To define legal and beneficial ownership to mean the oil allocated to UNOC in respect to the 15% shareholding in the ECO project for purposes of meeting the tariff obligation and other services. Justification for clarity. I submit, Right Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Love, can you give us your definition? If you reframe it afresh.
On record, the definition to define legal and beneficial ownership to mean the oil allocated to UNOC in respect to the 15% shareholding in the ECO project for purposes of meeting the tariff obligation and other services. I'm not a professional doctor person, but I've rendered the meaning I wanted to attach to this for the purposes of the draft people to supply the same meaning without creating any further ambiguities. And having done that, I hope my honorable friend and the minister will, for the first time, concede like I've conceded.
Honorable members, I am putting a question on the insertion that Leader of Opposition is bringing, Honorable Mpuga, on the definition of legal and beneficiary ownership to refer to oil allocated to UNOC in respect to 15% shareholding in the ECO project for purpose of meeting the tariffs and other related services that should be included in section 4 as a definition or as an interpretation. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary, no? No. The noes have it. I therefore put a question that clause 4 be amended as proposed. Minister, those in favor say and to the contrary, no? The ayes have it.
Clause 4 as amended.
I now put a question that clause 4 as amended do stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, to the contrary, no? The ayes have it.
Schedule 1.
I put a question that schedule 1 do stand as a schedule to the bill. Those in favor say aye, to the contrary, no?
Schedule 2.
I put a question that schedule 2 do stand as schedule to the bill. Those in favor say aye, to the contrary, no? The ayes have it.
The title.
I put the question that the title do stand as the title of the bill. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary, no? The ayes have it.
Motion for the House to resume.
Honorable Minister.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that the House do resume and the Committee of the Whole House reports thereto.
Honorable members, I put a question that the House do resume and the Committee of the Whole House reports thereto. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary, nay. The ayes have it.
Report from the Committee of the Whole House.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House considered the bill entitled the East African Crude Oil Pipeline Bill 2021 and passed clauses 29, 36, 37, 46, and clause 4, which was stood over with amendments. Passed clauses 26, 27, 28, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, and 45 without amendments. We were able to pass the schedules 1 and 2 without amendments. I beg to report that we also passed the title to this bill without amendment. I may add that I also want to add that the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development conceded with the proposal, some of the proposals moved by the leader of the opposition. So it's not right that he was asking me to concede for the first time, because you sanctioned us to sit and we really consented. We took care of some of the provisions from the minority report, and I'm very grateful that we moved in harmony. So the clauses I have moved regard to the East African Crude Oil Pipeline Special Provisions Bill of 2021. I beg to report.
Motion for adoption of the report from the Committee of the Whole House.
Honorable Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the report from the Committee of the Whole House be adopted.
Honorable members, I put a question that the House do adopt the report of the Committee of the Whole House. Those in favor say and to the contrary, nay. The ayes have it.
Bills third reading.
Go back. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, I beg to move that the bill entitled the East African Crude Oil Pipeline Special Provisions Bill of 2021 be read the third time and do pass. I beg to move.
Honorable members, I propose the question that the East African Crude Oil Pipeline Special Provisions Bill 2021 be read the third time and do pass. Those in favor say unto the contrary, nay. The ayes have it.
A bill for an act entitled the East African Crude Oil Pipeline Special Provisions Act 2021.
Title settled and the bill is passed. Honorable members and fellow countrymen and women, I want to congratulate you on this bill, which has been outstanding for a very long period. And now you can easily do business between Uganda and Tanzania. I really want to congratulate you. And on a special note, I want to thank the leader of opposition. The leader of opposition is a very special person. You supported this country in whatever you've been doing. And I also want to thank the acting to Honorable Nwagaba, that is Honorable Katuntu, that you did a very good job, senior. You've been a very important person in this bill's passing, where people were not aware of what to do. You supported Shadow Minister. You're a very brilliant lady. We want to thank you so much. And we'll do our best and protect the interest of all the Ugandans. I want to thank you so much. And congratulations, Honorable Minister and the chairperson of the committee. Honor, you have something to say?
Yeah, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I just want to move a vote of thanks to you for the guidance that you gave us, particularly in coming up with a select committee to harmonize.
That was not a select committee. The select committee is provided for under the rules. That is
the harmonization committee. Thank you for
Yes.
that correction. I just want to thank you for coming up with that harmonization committee in which we deliberated and came up with the various harmonization positions that made the passing of this bill a harmonious task for all of us without saying so and so has won, so and so has lost. I thank you very much for your wisdom in guiding this House.
Thank you so much.
Similarly, Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody who worked with me in examining this bill. Particularly, I want to thank members of my committee and the Honorable Minister and her team for the harmony that we exhibited as we examined this bill. And I want to assure members of my committee that your views were taken into consideration, and the harmonization committee was very cognizant of your tremendous input in dealing with this matter. Today, we have unlocked the potential for our country in moving it from a banana republic to an oil-producing country. I want to thank all of you for this great opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Minister, you want to say something?
Yes, please.
Briefly.
Yes, please. I'm going to be very brief. And I must begin by thanking you very much, Madam Speaker. As the presiding officer, your guidance is very key. You guided well where we marched out, and all of us interfaced with technical people who have been on the journey of the development of petroleum sector in Uganda. They have been at it. They were fresh in reminding us of the provisions of the signed agreements where we were not party. So it was important that at least we go out and interface with these technical people. And I must thank you. And I want to thank the leader of opposition with his entire team. They came up with the minority report, which we identified that there was need to clarify on some of those issues. I want to appreciate that. I want to appreciate the committee. We interfaced with them in a retreat together with the technical team. As you may all be aware, I was also in a lecture room with everyone because I've not been part and parcel of these agreements. Therefore, I want to end, as I thank the committee, I want to end by urging colleagues to find time and read these agreements, because we are the ones who are supposed to interpret them to the rest of the country. These are huge documents. We laid them on table. They are being referenced to in the bill that we have just concluded. So it will be shameful for us to appear on media, explain things which probably are out of the agreed agreement. So I just want to request everyone to really find time and read these very important documents. Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
I had actually expected you to thank your government chief whip too for the sleepless nights he has had.
1,000 apologies. He chaired this special committee, but also he took time to read the bill because he was able to even give clarifications where I and my team were not giving the clarification. This indicated to me that the government chief whip took time to read the bill, not only to whip people, to read the bill, internalized it, sanctioned us to present the relevant provisions in the agreement, read them, and I know that he will continue whipping the rest of the members in understanding the bill that we've just passed.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. But to me, my special thanks goes to my personal Attorney General, Honorable Katuntu. And thank you to the members of the ministry, the staff of the ministry for your effort. Honorable members and the media, you are very grateful. Honorable members in the VIP gallery this afternoon, we have His Lordship, Right Reverend Joseph Echiru Oliach, the Bishop of Soroti Diocese. On your behalf, allow me to welcome him to Parliament of Uganda. You're most welcome, Papa Bishop, and feel at home while in Parliament of Uganda. And thank you for coming for prayers. We also have Father Thomas Ome, the private secretary to the Bishop. We have Father Ponciano Kawesa, the Parliamentary Catholic Chaplain. Still in the gallery, we have Honorable Eli Karuhanga former MP and currently the chairman of Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum. Honorable, you're welcome. He is here to witness the passing of the ECOP bill. Congratulations for your bill. Members, I want to thank you so much, especially for welcoming my bishop. Next item. And as I said this when we're starting, that we have a mass, high mass that is going to be celebrated by the Right Reverend Joseph Bishop Achiro. That is on the lighting of the Christmas tree. And that's why Bishop Achiro is here. Bishop, you're welcome.
Motion for resolution of Parliament urging government to strengthen efforts for promoting road safety in Uganda.
There's a procedural matter from a Matt Cecilia Atim Ogwang. Barbara.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I rise on procedural matter. I have noted that you have appreciated the role played by the minister, the government chief whip, and the acting attorney general, and the leader of the opposition. But Right Honorable Speaker, I have observed that there are quite a number of people who have contributed in shaping the bill and arriving. And therefore, I'm asking the minister and the chief whip, where, since the bill is passed at the time of Christmas, it's a special gift for the people of Uganda. It's a special Christmas gift. So, Right Honorable Speaker, one of the issues that you forgot to share with us, who have been sharing and also helping in shaping the debate, we want to know where the minister and the chief whip and the government chief whip is going to have scientific dinner.
Honorable,
Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Cecilia, you are aware that solicitation is criminal. Now you're soliciting for Christmas benefit. Next item. Members, we have an item here on the road safety, and we are going to launch the road safety on Monday. And to be prudent that we pass, we move the motion to that effect. Yes?
Then, Right Honorable Speaker.
Now I can see two senior members of parliament standing, fighting for the microphone.
Not exactly, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker was standing in reference to the order paper, and I was seeing the item that was next, as you guided, would be Prime Minister's time. And I thought the Prime Minister would be present in this house to answer the sticking issues. And now that we have General Moses Sali, I don't know whether he will be able to stand firm on the issues, particularly the issues of Congo. We wanted to ask these matters very specifically. And it is also provided for under our rules of procedure, Rule 41. Rule 41 provides for the Prime Minister's time. And since we had burning issues, Right Honorable Speaker, wouldn't it be procedure right that you ask for the Prime Minister to be present? Because some of us are putting our eyes firmly on the Constitution and on our Congo expeditions. Would want to take every opportunity available to raise this matter of Congo. And since this is the prime time for the Prime Minister and the lead of government business, wouldn't it be procedure right, Right Honorable Speaker, that we go as per the order paper and we have the Prime Minister to answer?
Thank you, Honorable Sechi. The beauty behind the order paper is that it is for the Speaker. So the Speaker will decide on what comes, and on what does not come. But what is raising is something that is pertinent on what you want to raise. And as you're aware that it is the item that you're raising is on the order paper, that item is going to be handled. And you want the leader of opposition, the leader of government business. The leader of government business is here. The most senior leader of government business, General. But I am also mindful of General's health. All of you know what happened to General, and I don't want us to strain General so much on what does not. For now, let's first look at the Road Safety Act. Motion. Thank you. Seki, thank you for understanding that you're dealing with your father and
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Motion for a resolution of Parliament urging government to strengthen efforts for promoting road safety in Uganda. Moved under Rule 56 of the Rules of Procedure. Aware that Uganda has, in the recent years, institutionalized the annual commemoration of the National Road Safety Week, with that of 2021 scheduled for 13th to 17th December. And further aware that Uganda, as a member of the United Nations General Assembly, that adopted Resolution A/RES/74/299, improving global road safety, has signified its commitment under the second decade of action for road safety to reduce road traffic deaths and injuries by at least 50% by 2030. And further aware that the resolution indicated above calls upon member states to continue action on all road safety targets, multimodal transport and land use planning, safe road infrastructure, safe vehicles, safe road use, and post-crash response. Cognizant that the Traffic and Road Safety Act 1998 Amendment Act 2020 recognizes the need to promote road safety in Uganda through strengthening of road transport regulation and road safety management, and the government through the Ministry of Works and Transport has instituted a series of reforms to address some of the gaps in the legal and institutional frameworks governing road safety. Cognizant of the raft of statutory instruments aimed at operationalizing the implementation of the Road Safety Act, notably A, the Traffic and Road Safety Prescribed Alcohol Limit Regulations 2004, Traffic and Road Safety Speed Limit Regulation 2004, Traffic and Road Safety Motorcycle Regulations 2004, Traffic and Road Safety Wearing of Seat Belt Regulations 2004, E, Traffic and Road Safety Restriction of Use of Mobile Telephones Regulations 2004, F, Traffic and Road Safety Speed Governors Regulations 2004, and G, Traffic and Road Safety Act 1998, Statutory Instrument 361 to 10. Noting that globally, road traffic injuries remain the leading cause of death, with millions of lives lost to crashes almost every day. Hence, the World Remembrance Day for Road Traffic Victims, observed every third Sunday in November each year, as the appropriate acknowledgement for victims of road traffic and their families. Pay homage to those who have died on the world's roads, advocate for better support for the victims and bereaved families, and promote action to save lives. Noting that in Uganda, the Police Crime Report 2020 estimates deaths accruing to road traffic crashes at 3,000 people, while serious injuries average 13,500 people annually. The Uganda Road Crash Severity Index was 30 deaths per 100 crashes in 2019. The main risk behavior factors contributing to road carnage and injuries include high speed, drink driving, improper or non-use of helmets, seat belts, and child restraints. Further concerned that road crashes and injuries have a significant impact on any country's GDP and the entire economy. The World Health Organization report 2017 on managing speed estimated that road traffic crashes cost countries approximately 3% of their GDP, with the economic losses in low and middle income countries equivalent to 5% of GDP, approximately 6.4 trillion shillings for Uganda's case. Now, therefore, be it resolved by this parliament that, number one, the government increases funding for the road safety programs and activities, specifically the Department of Traffic and Road Safety of the Ministry of Works and Transport and the Directorate of Traffic Police for human resource and equipment. Number two, the Ministry of Works and Transport considers reducing the speed limit for urban areas, high built-up areas and school zones from 50 km per hour to 30 km per hour. Number three, the ministry reduces the blood alcohol content from the current 0.08 mg to stroke 100 milliliter to 0.05 mg stroke 100 milliliter for the general drivers, 0.02 stroke 100 milliliter for young and novice drivers and commercial drivers. The Ministry of Works and Transporting liaison with other relevant agencies, such as UNBS, considers setting acceptable standards for helmets, seat belts, and child restraints to be allowed on the market. The Uganda Police Force strengthens enforcement of road safety laws and regulations, especially during this month that we are nearing end of the year holidays. The Ministry of Works and Transport, Ministry of Health, and Uganda Police Force should work concertedly to improve the collection and management of road crash data. Government strengthens measures to curb corruption between traffic offenders and the law enforcers on the roads. I beg to move, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Ruhunda Alex. Is the motion seconded? Is it seconded or seconded by Honorable Mudimi, Dorcas, Honorable Kefa, Dorcas, Kanya, Obama, Migade, by most of the members, majority of the members, Obiga, Jocelyn, is Jocelyn in? Somebody can, Honorable Mudimi, you can come and speak for the motion.
Yeah, thank you,
Mr.
Right Honorable
Seconda.
Speaker, for the opportunity. I support the motion raised by Honorable Alex Ruhunda for curbing accidents on the roads. But Right Honorable Speaker and members, he has mentioned many other aspects which are attributes to road carnage. But in the city here, apart from over speeding, you find a huge pothole in the middle of the city. They're here. So when you are driving, when you are not careful, even if you are driving at a low speed and the vehicle which is not strong, you find it, you are off road completely. I sympathize with even the borders. Yesterday I was following a border here, just here, down here. He entered into a pothole, then he remained there. So it's not necessary we are saying the overspeeding and what. We urge government and the leadership of Kampala State Council Authority, at least to improve the road network within the city. As you look for monies to do other things. We normally take right honorable speaker, the route to Jinja. In Mavira now, when you're driving in Mavira, you have to be very careful. Because every moment where you pass, you find a pothole. When you are driving at least a reasonable speed, you find you're off the road. So I beg this house that when it comes to the budget process, we allot some money to KCC at least to do some improvement in the city. And also one time recently, I got a friend who came from Norway. He really said, now which type of city is this? With huge potholes, borders, no control, everything, in a mess. So really we have to look at management of traffic and the human in a proper way. Otherwise, it's very expensive and it is costly. They have ranked as the most expensive venture globally, those road carriages. Recently, I saw a bus in Nairobi which plunged into the water, carrying all these problems which can be resolved. I support the motion.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mudimi. This motion has been proposed, it has been seconded. I am going to defer the debate to Tuesday on this motion. And on a special note, I want, on behalf of Parliament, I want to congratulate the Most Reverend Paul Semogerere upon his appointment as the Archbishop of Kampala Diocese. Kampala Archdiocese, we wish him well and we'll keep praying for him. And we thank God for his appointment. We adjourn the House to 2 p.m. on Tuesday.